In today's video, I'm gonna guide you through the best Pyromancer Debuff build that will make your teammates love you. And on top of that, it's actually really fun to play. So I will guide you how to set this build up optimally, how you could build it if you don't have all pieces, and how it works, and also show some gameplay of the build. If that sounds whoa, what is that I'm seeing, Daniel? You're not subscribed? Don't be like Daniel, guys, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that daily Outriders content. On top of that, you can also find me live probably right now at twitch.tv/widdz. So with that said, let's get the video started. So we're gonna start off going through the skills here. So we're gonna be using Heat Wave, and that's mainly for the debuff. We can get up to 75% more damage on a target with a special mods. I think you can even get more than that if you use it on cooldown, since we have it on 5.5 second cooldown. As a second skill, we're gonna be using Thermal Bomb. You could use Ash Blast, and if you're interested in a more damage focused build and one that would work better for solo, you could check out the Pyro build I did a few days ago, which uses Ash Blast. But we're using Thermal Bomb, and also that with another mod that gives 40% more damage per Thermal Bomb. And you can use another mod to get 2 Thermal Bombs, and that's 80% more damage as well. But a pretty good skill used to get more damage, and also when you kill a target, as you can see on the video there, it also deals AoE damage, which can be quite huge. Then the last skill is Overheat, which is an interrupt and also damage skill. And this one, you just want to spam all the time to try to just deal as much damage as possible. Most of the times, like the majority of the damage will come from this one. So that are basically the 3 skills. So if we take a look at the skill tree, I would personally recommend the bottom tree, but I do have the middle tree skilled right now. And that's really good if you guys are looking for more survivability. The middle tree gives you armor, it gives you more max health. As you can see here, a lot of max health. A lot of it actually. And also resistance as well. So pretty good for survivability. You can also get this one right here. So when the burn ends, you will inflict ash, which is pretty good actually. And something that I would like to swap out here is to actually get the distant flame instead of the burn afflicted on enemies lasts 20% longer, I think. But the middle tree, you can do a lot of different ways here. But mainly the focus with this build is the debuff. So I try to just pick up survivability here as a main focus. And the middle build as well is something that Match recommended me to do, so check him out as well. Since I barely played the middle tree, but he got me to test it out, and it was really good for survivability. When it comes to the bottom tree, this is somewhat what I would do. There is a few changes you could do. You don't need to do Phoenix Nestling, for example. That just gives you a sheet diff, additional life right. But with the changes with the emergency stance, I would definitely recommend to use that now. You could even go here to get the shorter cooldown if you would like to. But I find this tree usually works pretty well for me to spec this way. You could also go 2 points in here. You get max health and then reduce cooldown on Ignite. But I don't feel like that is needed. I guess something else, you could get 20 resistance as well if you pick this one up. So there is a few changes you could do here. But this is the way I usually like to run it. So with that tree, I have 7.9 cooldown for Heat Wave, 6 Thermal Bomb, and 4.6 Overheat. And if you want to get the Heat Wave a bit shorter cooldown, you could pick this one up right here. But I think the cooldowns are pretty fine the way I used it. We do take a look at the build here. I am using still a 3-piece Akari. It's going to be really similar actually to what I used in the previous build. But worth to note that you don't actually need the 3-piece Akari to make this build work. Because Akari gives you 50% anomaly power bonus for 10 seconds with every enemy hit by Heat Wave. Which of course is good for extra AP, but you don't actually need it because it's a debuff build. Your job is not to do the most damage, it's just to buff like a Technomancer or a Trickster. And same thing here as well, anomaly power, cooldown reduction is the most important thing. If you can get status power, that's good too. So if you don't have Akari, you can just use 5 purples and that will be totally fine. So before we go through my gear, I just want to go through some mods that you need to have for this build and some that you don't need to have. So it's basically Heat Wave and Thermal Bomb that is the main, which is the main skills used for this build. Of course Overheat as well, but Heat Wave and Thermal Bomb is what gives you the big debuffs. So picking up Burnt Out, super important because that is what makes Heat Wave to actually debuff the enemies. So damage enemies takes 25% more damage for 8 seconds. And we had a cooldown on 6 seconds, which means we can actually hit more than 3 heat waves on one target. And then on top of that, you definitely want to pick up at least one of these. You have Tidal Wave and Ride the Wave. Both do the same thing. They just add one more heat wave. The footage you will see will be with 3, but you could definitely get away with only 2. The build I'm gonna show you is like just maxing out everything you can on the debuff. So definitely pick up those skills right there. And if you only have tier 1 mods, even if you only have 3 heat waves and burnt out, that's a really good way to debuff for your teammates. Because you can actually be useful without 3-piece Akari and without all the tier 3 mods. So those are the heat waves mods you want to have. If you take a look at tier 3 mods, you do have Fire Tsunami, which increases the width of the firewall. So basically, just making it way more wider. You don't need this mod, but I do like to use this one just to have an easier time to hit your heat waves. But that's basically the mods for heat wave. Then when it comes to thermal bomb, you have a tier 1 mod called Fire Frenzy. It just adds one more thermal bomb. So instead of 1, you actually have 2. Pretty good pickup right there. Also tier 3 mods, you have a super important one when it comes to using thermal bomb, which is branded. So enemies affected by the skill receive 40% more damage. So if you don't have that tier 3 mod, I would recommend to use Ash Blast instead. You could check out the video I did 2 days ago, as I said, with Pyro, and try that build instead. Because using thermal bomb without this won't give you the 40% or 80% if you use 2 debuff to the enemies. So definitely a mod that you need to have if you want to run thermal bomb debuff. On top of that, I did use Double Fun. The skill can affect 2 targets. Using this one and also the tier 1 mod that gives you additional use, it's kind of overkill, but I wanted to go full overkill here. So definitely recommend to use this one and check it out and see what you think. I honestly actually like to use it because it will affect 2 targets instead of 1, and that is pretty good. And also using Fire Frenzy for 2 of them was just super fun because I mainly just spammed my skills, which was just super fun. So I would say those are kind of mandatory for this build. So I think with that information, you should be able to set up a pretty decent build when it comes to this debuff. When it comes to weapons, Death Shield is super good with Fortress, and then you add Shadow Comment just for that AoE damage that Shadow Comment gives you, and it's also Interrupt. And it doesn't require much to do as well. You just shoot it every 3 seconds, then you will get some decent damage and interrupt. So a really good skill to use for an AP build. The second gun I use is the Anomi for Moaning Winds and the Fortress. And then also the third gun, Torment Agony with Moaning Winds as well and Clip Combustion. So I will always have the Death Shield as a main, and then I will have the second and the third gun just at 0 bullets and swap to it. To just trigger Moaning Winds and then swap to the third one, trigger Moaning Winds, and then back to the first one. So never actually fully reload this to just like cheese out the Moaning Winds. If you don't have Moaning Winds, you could use Radiation Splash. You could also put Radiation Splash on this gun instead of Fortress, but then you have to make sure that you use the skills when you have a Death Shield up. So those are kind of the guns you want to have. If you don't have it, it's not the biggest deal. You can still debuff, but to get that extra damage and AP, it's really good to have those. So with that out of the way, we can take a look at my actual build. And it's going to be quite some similarities from the last one, but still some changes since we don't use Ash Blast. So the helmet, we have Fire Tsunami for that increased width for Heat Wave. Then we have Ride the Wave for additional Heat Wave. The chest piece Detonator to get down that overheat cooldown. It's not that important with this build though, but still good to have. We also have Monster Consumer, which is not the must-have either, but it's a good damage boost to have for overheat. So the skill consumes either burn or ash status to deal damage. Consuming both at once increases damage by 150. The pants, we have Anomaly Echo, not the must-have either, but it comes on the pants. And then I rolled Burnt Out here to get that 25% more damage on the enemies for 8 seconds with 1 heat wave. Really good debuff. And then the gloves, actually full thermal bomb here, so we have Fire Frenzy for 1 more thermal bomb and also branded to get that 40% extra damage on thermal bombs, so super good for debuff. And then another heat wave and then also Double Fun, so 2 targets can get affected by 1 thermal bomb. But that is basically the build I'm using. So to play this one, you just want to spam thermal bomb and heat wave to get the debuffs. 40% per thermal bomb, so 80% plus the 75% from heat wave, which I mean, if we get the cooldown lower, which you could spec here. 15% shorter cooldown on heat wave. And then on top of that, you could also get cooldown reduction on the helmet if you don't use Akari. And you can get like up to 200% debuff basically. So basically with this build, you spam overheat. Use thermal bomb. Preferably on elites or bosses, but also on smaller enemies. Because when the thermal bomb hits, as you will see in the gameplay later, they will do massive AoE damage. And then just do heat wave as well. Just spam those and your teammates will love you, that's for sure. And it's a pretty fun build to play as well. Especially if you played a lot of gun builds, I would definitely recommend to check out Pyromancer. And I guess when it comes to survivability, which is something people complain about, as I said, you could go the middle tree. That should solve a lot of those issues. Other than that, in terms of mods, you can go quickly in here. So in terms of mods, you can still use Blacksmith, which I would recommend. Otherwise, I would definitely suggest you to check out Circle of Power, since this works really well for skill builds. So melee will trigger this. So you could just spam melee to keep this up. And also all the other skills would trigger that as well. What I heard though is that you need to use one skill. So if you use 3 heat waves, you only get 1 stack. So you would have to use heat wave, thermal bomb, heat wave, like overheat, like always swap between one of them and you would keep it up. And worth to note as well, yes, there is a 7-second cooldown on this before it goes away. But when you get it to 45% of circle of power, only 15% will go away every 7 seconds. So it's super easy to actually keep the 45% up. So definitely if you want to have some resistance to status effects and anomaly, definitely would recommend Circle of Power. Otherwise, you could use talents such as Damage Absorber for that armor and resistance. And honestly, I haven't tried this, but I think Diffuse would actually work really well for a Pyro skill build. So sprinting increase your armor by 42% and also resistance by 50%. Obviously, if you use this, you wouldn't need Circle of Power. But the thing is, as a Pyro, you will be sprinting a lot. And when you sprint, you won't take damage. Of course, you have to stand still and do heat waves. But a lot of times, you can actually do heat waves through objects. So you can go behind a wall, do thermal bomb, heat wave, and overheat, right? So I think that could work pretty well with this particular build. As long as you know the pathing well and you actually play pretty smart behind the cover. Which also means like you can sprint and be quite tanky without dying, right? But that's something that I would definitely recommend to test. But I think that covers everything with this build. If you want to try a more solo build that's not 100% on debuff and also do great damage, just make sure you check out the Pyro build I made 2 days ago. And if I forgot something, let me know in the comment section below and I will try to answer that. But with that said, I hope you guys found this video helpful. And if you are interested in more daily Outriders videos, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. And if you want to check me out live, you can do that on twitch.tv/widdz. I'm most likely live actually when you guys are watching this. But I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. It's gonna be me and a viewer carrying another viewer. So if you're interested in carries as well, I usually do them on Twitch. But I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay and the video, and I catch you guys on the stream or in the next video. I do miss the vision though. But there's a lot of like... It's been like really calm. To like not have to care that much about community or something. Like there's a lot of shit in that community. Since like I play any other games, people don't really know me, right? I play Division. There's a lot of people who know who I am. And it just kind of opens up for more people talking about you, I guess. So everything you do is kind of more in the spotlight somehow. Compared to other games, like there's nothing I have to like think about, you know? That makes sense? Like in other games, I'm a completely nobody, right? In Division, like people know about me. Not saying I'm the biggest shit ever, but people like know about me in the game, right? If that makes sense. What's up, Tarjan? I don't know why I'm doing this right here though. Marcus Destiny 2 videos? Really? I feel like that's kind of rare. Because I think like in the Destiny 2 videos, like when I play in a raid group, I don't take much space, right? That's just how I am. Especially world first raids. Like I only talk if it's needed. Especially in world first raids. If you watch the world first on Division 2, like you know that I don't really say anything unnecessary. Like I just try to be fucking efficient. Damn, did I do 4.6 billion with 4.6 billion, right? With Moaning Winds, I think. First raid, it took us like 6 hours, I think. We actually did it as a 7-man because or 8 just wiped. Like his Ranger's internet just died. So we had to 7-man it. And we had to wait for the perfect moment. So if we would have wiped, we would have actually not gotten first. We did so many fuck ups on the first raid, dude. Like we were so Pepega, man. We were lucky like there wasn't much competition. Because if there was, we would have fucking not gotten first. Because we did a lot of fuck ups. Can you carry me? Wrong one. Oh shit, you want to ask if I want to marry you? Can you marry me? Is that what you meant? Shit, dude. Relax. Of the videos where you're accused of cheating? You mean like Div 1 videos or? You still have 2 runs, the curly man. You want to do 2 runs? Because I'm doing like... Now we just done like random raffles, but I also want to try to get some of the carries from the Sabatons done. If you have time. Alright, dude. Alright. DLC assault rifle, they did something with it. I think I've seen a few comments on the video that it doesn't work anymore.